West Africa is witnessing a historic rift, a rising confederation, unexpected tariffs, and a new ECOWAS president facing an impossible task. How did it come to this? Let's uncover the full story. Now, President Bola Tinubu has handed over the chairmanship of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government to President Julius Maada Bio of Sierra Leone. Once again, the West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, has taken another hit, this time from the AES Confederation, and it's happening under the watch of ECOWAS's new president, Sierra Leone's Julius Maada Bio. For President Bio, the challenges ahead are already piling up. It all started when the AES member countries, who were once founding members of ECOWAS, chose to withdraw from the bloc entirely. Since then, they've stood firmly by their decision, despite repeated efforts from ECOWAS to bring them back into fold. But now the divide between ECOWAS and the AES has grown even deeper. In a move that sent shockwaves through the region, the AES announced a new policy, a 0.5% levy on every imported good coming from other ECOWAS member states. The official statement from the AES confirmed the decision, and reactions have been mixed ever since. Some see it as the final blow, a move that could fracture the regional bloc beyond repair. But what does this new levy really mean? How will it shape the future of ECOWAS and the rising power of the AES? Let's find out. Recently, ECOWAS welcomed a new chairman, the president of Sierra Leone, Julius Maada Bio. He stepped into the role after taking over from Nigeria's president, Bola Tinubu. President Tinubu's time at the helm was short, lasting less than 2 years. But in that brief period, his leadership exposed deep cracks within the regional bloc. History will likely remember that under Tinubu's watch, ECOWAS began to disintegrate. He came in determined to prove himself, eager to show he could guide ECOWAS to new heights. But his grand ambitions fell short. Instead, he left behind a fractured bloc for the new chairman to piece back together. Now, President Julius Maada Bio finds himself facing an uphill battle. He knows the stakes are high. ECOWAS is grappling with threats that could tear it apart like never before. The democratic space is under strain in part of our region, Bio said in his opening remarks as ECOWAS president. In some countries, the constitutional order has been disrupted. The question now is whether President Bio can heal the divisions and keep ECOWAS from falling further into crisis. In his remarks, President Bio was referring to troubling political situations unfolding in Togo, Ivory Coast, and Cameroon. But despite these challenges, the new ECOWAS president has pledged to make democracy, security cooperation, economic integration, and the institutional credibility of ECOWAS his top priorities. Yet the question lingers, can President Bio truly steer the bloc toward unity and greater security? For now, it remains to be seen. What's certain is that he's inherited a mountain of problems. Organized crime has been rising across the region, adding new layers of complexity. Combine that with ongoing political and economic instability, and it's clear the new chairman has his hands full. But that's not all. President Bio also has to contend with a fresh challenge, a new tariff imposed on ECOWAS member countries by the emerging West African bloc known as AES. When the military leaders of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso first floated the idea of forming a confederation in 2023, many dismissed it as little more than political posturing. No one believed it would materialize so quickly. But President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, Assimi Goïta of Mali, and General Abdourahmane Tiani of Niger have shown the world that when they work together, almost anything is possible. What began as a mere idea in October 2023 turned into reality by July 2024, when the three nations held the first AES summit. From that moment, one thing became clear to everyone watching. The AES Confederation was here to stay. However, since the formation of the new bloc, ECOWAS has refused to accept the decision of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso to break away. Under the leadership of Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu, ECOWAS tried several diplomatic moves to bring the three nations back. African leaders were sent as mediators, carrying messages of reconciliation and unity. The presidents of Senegal, Togo, and even the newly elected president of Ghana traveled to the AES countries hoping to broker a deal. But despite all these efforts, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso have held firm. They've shown no intention of reversing their decision. When diplomacy failed, ECOWAS tried another strategy. The bloc extended the original one-year negotiation period to a year and 6 months, hoping more time might soften the stance of the AES nations. Yet now, for months into that extension, there's little sign the three countries are reconsidering. Instead, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso remain steadfast, pouring their energy into building and strengthening the AES Confederation. Their actions send a clear message to the region and the world. The AES is here to stay. As mentioned earlier, the three AES countries have now taken a bold and significant step. They've decided to impose a 0.5% levy on all imported goods coming from Nigeria and other ECOWAS member nations. According to the official statement, the funds raised will support the operations and activities of the AES. The decision was finalized last Friday and has already gone into effect. The levy applies to all goods imported from outside Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, excluding humanitarian aid. The money will finance the bloc's activities, though few additional details were offered. Mali's foreign ministry explained that customs authorities in each country will collect the tax, then deposit the money into a special AES account. Some goods will be exempt, including products traded within the AES bloc, humanitarian aid, and diplomatic shipments. To ensure transparency, officials promised the funds would undergo annual audits and financial reporting. This move by Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso marks a significant shift in regional trade dynamics. It signals just how serious the three countries are about carving out their own economic and political path apart from ECOWAS. You see, one of ECOWAS's founding goals was to create true regional integration across West Africa, a region without borders, allowing free movement of people, goods, and services. That vision meant any West African citizen could travel, work, or trade anywhere in the region without obstacles. Businesses could connect freely, fueling economic growth and unity. But now, with the AES imposing this new levy, that vision faces its greatest test yet. For more than 50 years, ECOWAS has worked tirelessly to achieve true regional integration, and in some ways, it has made real progress. Back in 2015, ECOWAS eliminated import tariffs for goods traded within the region. The idea was to make trade easier and encourage more trade among neighboring nations. But despite this ambitious move, trade between ECOWAS member countries remains surprisingly low. Reports show the value of trade within the group barely reaches 11.5% of total exports. Even tariff elimination hasn't been easy to implement. Non-tariff barriers like complicated customs procedures, countless roadblocks, and administrative hurdles slow trade. Poor infrastructure disrupts logistics, and border closures between ECOWAS countries hurt informal cross-border trade. Given all these challenges, many believe ECOWAS's most significant achievement remains the 1979 Protocol on free movement of persons and establishment. It's a reminder that while the dream of regional unity lives on, turning that dream into reality has proven far harder than expected. The AES's decision to impose a 0.5% levy sends a powerful message. These three nations no longer consider themselves part of the group. According to analysts, this new levy effectively tears down decades of free trade between Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, and the broader ECOWAS bloc. It reinforces a divide between AES and ECOWAS, drawing a new line across West Africa's political and economic landscape. But the implications go even deeper. It further isolates the three countries, but also tests their ability to forge a strong, economically viable alliance amid rising tensions. For some, the consequences could be far-reaching, especially for economic giants like Nigeria. Historically, Nigeria has maintained close trade ties with Niger, sharing economic and cultural bonds. In 2022, Niger imported $290 million worth of goods from Nigeria, making Nigeria one of its top 5 trading partners. By 2023, that figure had dropped sharply to $29 million. The main goods traded included petroleum, gas, electricity, and cement. Now, with the AES forging its own path, the question looms: what will these changes mean for trade stability and West Africa's future? However, in response to this new development, Dr. Mudi Yusuf, Chief Executive Officer of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, offered a different perspective. He pointed out that trade within the region, especially between Nigeria and its immediate neighbors, is largely informal. The levy, I strongly believe, would not have a significant impact on informal trade, which in this case is higher than formal trade, he explained. The borders are porous, and most of the trade that takes place is informal and undocumented. Dr. Yusuf acknowledged that formal trade would indeed feel the effects of the new levy, but when looking at trade volumes across the subregion, he argued the impact would be relatively small. Look at our trading numbers with Niger. It is not that significant to affect us, he said. Total trade, imports and exports within the subregion accounts for less than 10% of Nigeria's total trade. In terms of sheer scale, he suggested it's simply not material. Look at the cattle and animals brought in for festive periods. Are those trade numbers recorded? Does anyone pay taxes on them? He asked. Niger, being landlocked, depends heavily on goods flowing in from Nigeria and the Republic of Benin, most of it undocumented. The levy would affect those countries more than us, Dr. Yusuf concluded. In his view, while the new levy might send political ripples through the region, the economic shockwaves in Nigeria might be far smaller than many fear. Speaking about the broader impact this new levy might have on the African Continental Free Trade Area, Dr. Yusuf offers a stark reality check. He explained that non-tariff barriers often create even bigger challenges for ECOWAS states than formal levies or tariffs ever could. To move a cargo of export across Benin Republic and Togo, exporters pay what's called a transit levy, he said, and that can run into millions of naira. Dr. Yusuf argued that this transit levy alone is often higher than the newly imposed 0.5% levy introduced by the Sahel countries. He pointed out that Benin has already banned some Nigerian goods, blatantly ignoring ECOWAS protocols and treaties. The respect for the protocol within the subregion is extremely weak and almost non-existent now, he said. And this levy is the final nail in the coffin for the ECOWAS treaty and protocol. Another voice weighed in. Dr. Madu Obi-Ora, Director General of the African Center for Supply Chain, said this move by the AES bloc was entirely expected. Since they do not belong to ECOWAS anymore, treaties like the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme do not apply to them again, and this is expected. He said this means imports from ECOWAS countries would be affected, but he thinks the 0.5% levy is not so heavy. Dr. Obi-Ora added that traders who use to ship goods to these AES countries might face disruptions in their trade routes and logistics. He also pointed to a deeper divide within ECOWAS itself, historically between the English-speaking and French-speaking sides, and warned this would likely deepen. He warned that the AES nations might start looking for new partners outside ECOWAS or even outside Africa. The instant they secure these new partnerships, their position will be strengthened, he said, and they would likely increase duties and levies even further. It's a shift that could transform trade and power dynamics across West Africa. Recently, there's also been growing talk that Togo might become the next country to join the AES. The idea first surfaced in January 2025 when Togo's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Robert Dussey, publicly raised the possibility. It is the decision of the President of the Republic, but it is not impossible, he told Vox Africa. Dussey emphasized that Togo wants to keep dialogue open with all parties while firmly pursuing its own national interests. Today, African peoples everywhere want to be themselves. We are not against anyone. The problem is that some of our partners want us to be at their service, so we say no, he explained. He lamented the lack of genuine sovereignty across the continent, saying Africa is only used to serve the great powers, and this is not normal. Then he added a telling remark. Ask the Togolese people if they want to join the AES. I think they'd say yes. By late March 2025, Dussey had reiterated the idea, making it clear this wasn't just a passing thought. In a social media post, the foreign minister declared, Togo is considering joining the AES, a strategic decision that could strengthen regional cooperation and offer access to the sea to member countries. This renewed talk shows the Togolese government is seriously exploring this path, a move that could dramatically reshape West Africa's political map. If Togo eventually joins the AES, it's very likely that the city and Port Lomé would open new doors for maritime cooperation with the three landlocked nations of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Already, the AES countries have begun shifting their trade routes. choosing to use Togo's port in Lomé and Ghana's port in Tema instead of relying on the port in Ivory Coast. In many ways, it's ECOWAS that stands to lose the most from these changes, not Mali, Niger, or Burkina Faso. After a series of meetings with the military leaders of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, successive ECOWAS mediators have come away with one clear message. Cooperation with the AES is essential for regional security. Back in December 2024, Senegal's President Ambassador Diomaye Faye emphasized this point, saying ECOWAS must work alongside the ES bloc to maintain stability. Terrorism can happen anywhere, President Faye said. The successes we have achieved with ECOWAS through various mechanisms should not be downplayed against the challenges of governance which needs to be reformed. He added, the Confederation of Sahel States, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, is facing challenges. The stakes are higher than ever. The question is whether these fractured blocs can find common ground, or whether West Africa is destined for even deeper divides. The Ghanaian president has also echoed similar sentiments, emphasizing the urgent need to rebuild trust between the AES and ECOWAS. During a joint conference in Ivory Coast, President John Dramani Mahama addressed the gathering with a message of hope. I want to see how we can work with them so that they not only remain within our sub-region, but also do the transition to constitutional democracy. He added a powerful metaphor. When your neighbor's house is on fire, you have to help him to quench it before it spreads into your own compound. There is more that unites us than divides us. President Mahama pledged his commitment to restoring trust between the alliance of Sahel states and ECOWAS. He addressed the heart of the crisis, acknowledging a profound breakdown of trust, and promised to do everything within his power to rebuild it. This is the mark of a leader who dares to think differently. All this time, ECOWAS is focused on persuading the three countries to return, yet failed to confront the real issues. They haven't addressed why Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso chose to walk away. Until they do, the road back to unity may remain out of reach. Since the AES Confederation was officially established last year, the bloc has moved quickly, making significant strides toward political, monetary, and financial independence, as well as regional security. In security, the AES has created a joint task force of about 5,000 soldiers to tackle insecurity in the tri-border area where Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger meet. This region suffers relentless terrorist attacks and violence, but it's also rich in minerals. For the AES, gaining control over this territory isn't just about fighting terrorism. It's about securing resources for real development. Niger's defense minister, General Salfa Modi, explained, our forces will now be able to intervene together. The 5,000-strong unified force is practically ready. Since its formation, the AES Confederation has rapidly pushed for political, economic, and security independence in West Africa. In February 2025, President Ibrahim Traoré became the first to receive the new AES passport, a symbol of unity and independence after leaving the West African Economic and Monetary Union. The passport, produced in Ouagadougou, uses modern biometric technology and meets international standards. Citizens can choose the new AES passport or keep their ECOWAS documents. Beyond passports, the AES is investing in infrastructure. In late 2024, the African Development Bank approved 156.6 million euros in loans to Burkina Faso and Mali for developing cross-border roads linking them to Ivory Coast. The project aims to improve transport, reduce trade barriers, and boost commerce. In less than a year, the AES has made notable progress in integrating politically, economically, and militarily. The question now is, can this new bloc sustain its momentum and redefine the future of West Africa? What do you think? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.